Welcome to Lead at Any Level Live. My name is Amy Waninger. I'm the founder and CEO of Lead at Any Level. I think I have some sound problems today, so if you are here with me, would you please let me know in the comments if you can hear me? That would be wonderful. And let me just try something else real quick. Sorry, I've had technical challenges today all day. So I'm going to try this, and hopefully there's sound on this video. If not, I'll have to re-record it at another time. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today is something that I've been pretty quiet about, probably to a fault, and that is disability inclusion. Now, the reason I'm quiet about this is because the reach and the scope and the depth of solutions for disability inclusion is just enormous, right? There's just so much out there that needs to be done. There's so many different approaches to take. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to give solutions that will work for most people most of the time, and try not to slice and dice people just too much, because I want to make sure that whatever we're doing in our organizations is inclusive as possible. Now, that's great, but I myself have been guilty of leaving the disability conversation on the table. And the reason I do that is because, frankly, it's bigger than I can claim expertise in. But this week I had a friend reach out to me who said, this is an ongoing problem, and you really need to do more to amplify this message, to amplify this problem, and to let people know. So I did a little bit of research, and I also am going to share later this week an article that she wrote. She wishes to keep her identity hidden because she's still searching for a job, and she doesn't want to have any blowback from sharing some of this information. But she was telling me about how difficult it is to find a job with her specific sets of disability. And so I wanted to share that with you later this week. So if you're not subscribed to my LinkedIn newsletter, please subscribe so that you can read that article from her and kind of get some behind the scenes and firsthand insights into what it's like to go through a hiring process when you have to disclose a disability. And her disability is primarily neurological. So again, it's a specific case, but it's very representative of what a lot of people are going through. But I wanted to share just a little bit with you today about why this is important, first of all. Not just because it's an equity issue, not just because it's the right thing to do, which motivates some people, but not everybody. But let's talk about this a little bit. So right now, in the United States alone, we have 5 million more open positions than we have people looking for jobs. So if everybody got a job that's looking for one today, tomorrow we would still have 5 million unfilled spots in the US. That's 5 million empty seats. And I've talked before about what empty seats do to our organizations, how much they cost, what they do for morale, what they do for additional turnover, right? There's a lot of hidden costs around empty seats in an organization. Well, here's the thing. Unemployment's really low right now overall. But people with disabilities are twice as likely to be unemployed as people without disabilities. Now, think about this for a minute. There are tons and tons of people looking for work, and there are more jobs than people. But people with disabilities are having a harder time getting placed into those jobs, getting hired into those jobs. Not because of their qualifications, but because managers don't know how to make the right accommodations for them in the selection process, or don't know how to make the right accommodations for them in the work environment itself. And so what happens is a lot of times folks who have disabilities are unemployed for longer or permanently, even when they want to work and are capable of working. Or they're underemployed, meaning it's part-time work, it's full-time work, but at a much lower rate. You're going to hear a lot about that in this article that I'm going to share with you later this week. But the reason this is so important, not just to people with disabilities, but also to your companies, is that 1 in 4 Americans right now is living with a disability. And that number is going to go up as the population ages, number one, but also as the long-term implications of COVID are, become more clear. There are lots of folks who have survived COVID, but have long haul COVID, have lingering disabilities associated with COVID-19. So people who have left the workforce to deal with their illness may or may not be able to come back, and not because they can't do the job, but because employers are not prepared to place them or not prepared to welcome them in. And so if you think about that, there's all these open positions. There are people who are ready, hungry, capable of filling those open positions, but they're being overlooked unfairly and unnecessarily. And like I said, you're going to read about that this week in my newsletter, which releases on Tuesday. The other thing you need to understand, though, as people request accommodations, maybe you're in this position, you're a hiring manager, and you have someone who says, I would like to interview for this position, but I'm hard of hearing and I need live caption during our Zoom interview. Or perhaps it might be that I would like to interview for this position, but I'm neuroatypical. Maybe someone is on the autism spectrum and they'd like to have the questions in advance that they're going to be interviewed on so they can prepare. You may have somebody who says, I would love to come in for an interview, but I'm on medications that preclude me from driving. So I have to arrange the interview on site for when I have somebody I trust to bring me to the location, or when I have somebody that can transport me. You may have someone who uses a wheelchair or other mobility devices, but your business may not be large enough to be subject to ADA regulations or whatever. So they may not even be able to get in your building even if they can get there. There are all sorts of issues, right? Obstacles that we the able-bodied create that keep people out. It's a form of gatekeeping, very literally, that people just can't get into our organizations. Now, if you're needing talent, if you're looking around and you're saying, look, we need to hire people, and we're primarily in a knowledge industry, and we can, we don't need people's bodies, right? We need their minds. Then we need to be able to look beyond people's physical limitations and into what they're capable of mentally. Maybe, and I was just hearing a story about this at a conference a couple of weeks ago. There was an organization that did a lot of manual labor. It was a farming company. And, the work was, a lot of people would consider the work to be very repetitious, very lonely, very isolating, because it was a lot of, manual work by yourself for hours at a time. And a woman that worked there said, you know what, I have an autistic son, this would be a perfect job for him. And she created an entire program that placed people on the autism spectrum into that kind of work because they loved it, right? That was a kind of a great match because physically they were able to do the work, but it didn't bother them to be isolated in that way at work. And so there are all sorts of ways we need to get creative about solving these talent gaps in our organizations. And so if you think about the last time you were asked for an accommodation, maybe you said no. Maybe you said, this isn't going to work. Maybe you didn't say no, you said yes, but in your mind you're thinking, well, this will never work. This person can't work normal hours. This person can't come into the office. This person won't be able to do X, Y, and Z. And what I want to encourage you to do if you're a hiring manager is to not make those assumptions. Suspend your assumptions and ask the questions. Can you do this work? Is this a good fit for you? And let your candidate guide you. This is not a time to put up a velvet rope that keeps people out unnecessarily. This is a time to figure out right now, when everything is changing. Now is a great time to figure out how we can make accommodations to help people come back to the workforce that have maybe been excluded artificially for far too long. So I'm going to give you this one final thought. Accommodations are inclusion. They are not unfair advantages. If someone is asking you for a sign language interpreter, for written questions in advance, for wheelchair access to your building, this is a way that you can include them. It's not giving them an unfair advantage. It's giving them access at all to the amazing opportunities available at your company. And it doesn't mean that the person is less than. It doesn't mean that their work is less than. You're going to read in this article that, a lot of times people who have a disability, disclose a disability, are offered lower salaries, are offered lesser work, are, kind of pushed off to the side in some ways that they shouldn't be. And, a lot of us need accommodations for our jobs, right? You see, I'm wearing glasses. That's an accommodation I need to do my job. Otherwise, I will have horrible headaches and all the words will blur. And basically, after a couple of hours, I wouldn't be able to read if I didn't have glasses. My eyes just would not work. That's an easy accommodation for someone to make, is to let me wear glasses at work. And for someone who uses a wheelchair, for someone who uses mobility aids, for someone who uses cochlear implants so they can hear better, all of those are just tools that help that person show up and be productive and be valuable in that space. Now, people's disabilities look different. Some you can see, some you cannot see. Some they will disclose, some they will not. And we need to be ready for all of those eventualities as hiring managers, because we don't want to artificially exclude people who could do great work on our teams, be valuable assets to our organizations, and, ultimately, be great team members, right? And teach us new ways of doing things. A lot of times when people ask for accommodations and we provide them, what happens is everybody benefits, not just the person who requested the accommodation. And a great example of this is during the pandemic. There were lots of folks who, prior to coronavirus or COVID-19, who were asking to work remotely because it was better for their health, because they needed, the ability to put their feet up. They needed the ability to, take rest breaks during the day, whatever the issue is. And they were denied by their employers. Then all of a sudden we have a pandemic, people can't go into work, everybody's working remote. And that's something that if it had been available pre-pandemic would have been great for a lot of people. Unfortunately, now that people are coming back to the office and companies are in some cases requiring a return to office, they're taking away some accommodations that people have had. And they're doing that at a time when more people are living with disability than ever before. So think about the ways in which people show up at work, the way they ask for things, and ask yourself, why are they asking for this? Is it really a problem, or is it just something we've never done before? And if we've never done it before, why not? What if we tried it? And instead of trying to find reasons to exclude people from our workplaces, let's think about how could we be more inclusive today, tomorrow, and every day, because we really do need everybody working together, moving us forward, so we can create the kind of economy and the kind of world and the kind of organizations that we all want to be a part of. If this has been valuable for you, please subscribe. I'm here every week, live on Mondays. I'm moving from 11 o'clock to noon starting next week. So Mondays at noon on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube live. And be sure to subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter, where you can read the firsthand article from my friend and colleague who is being thwarted in her efforts, frankly, to find a job that she's very qualified for because she's forced to disclose disabilities. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for being here. If you are watching this on replay or even live, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've seen examples of this in your workplace. And most importantly, let's share some success stories of accommodations we've made or that we've had made for us that have helped move our teams forward. I will reply to every comment that's left here, so make sure that you comment, even if you're watching on replay. Thank you all so much. And if this is something that you would like to work more on and you would like to reduce turnover in your organization, be an employer that attracts people from all different backgrounds and with all different levels of abilities, then you can book time with me at reduceturnoverstrategy.com. Again, that's reduceturnoverstrategy.com. Thank you all so much.